without further ado, let me introduce our fine people from Ernst & Young. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you, well, and welcome. So yeah, so you can see, just so you know, you can see what's being broadcast. So you'll see it changing every now and again. Uh, Tammy, Sam, thank you so much for joining, and we're very, very excited to have you here. It's a big deal. What you're doing is extremely important, and we're excited to share it with people. As you know, this is the Global ADHD Conference. We've now had, I think, just shy of 3,000 people register their attendance. We've got a large number streaming live now, and registrants from 55 countries. So truly global, as I know E and Y are. Would you like to introduce yourselves? So if I pass over to you, who wants to go first?
Uh, Tammy, how's your audio? You there? No. Okay. Well, while you have a look at that, I can start off. So, my name is Sam Tuckey. I am the market activation lead for the UK's version of the Neuro-Diverse Centre of Excellence. My background comes from sales, recruitment, a little bit of learning and development, and neurodiversity is a new topic for me when I moved into EY. But I've always been very passionate about inclusion, and this is just an opportunity to put that passion into a kind of day-to-day work. So,
Fantastic, thank you. Tammy, you able to hear and not yet? It sounds like not yet. She's apologised for the audio problem. We will work on that. For the moment, I think it's Sam in charge. Good luck, Sam.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I can't hear you, but apparently my speaker's working, and I've tried headset and without, so I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. Well, do you want to sort? Well, we'll hand over to.
Well, let me crack on, and if Tammy, you want to, I don't know, pop out, pop back in, or close captions or something, we can work on it for the short term, and equally, talk as required. So we did have some slides to tee up.
I will tee those up now.
If that's possible, thank you.
They are just. They would just come. My computer is just frozen somewhat.
No worries. Well, I will tap dance for a little while then. So Tammy actually leads our Neurodiversity Centres of Excellence in Canada. They are a fantastic example of what's possible with not only the work they've done, but the speed which they have grown. And certainly of the global network that we're in, they're someone that we look at as people to aspire to be. So it's actually fantastic to have her perspective on there. Her background is very steeped in neurodiversity and awareness, and she's a fantastic advocate for this space in general, but also a great gift for someone like me to be able to lean on her support as and when required.
Wonderful. And my broadcast part is it's frozen. It's very exciting for me.
Well, don't worry about it. We can just talk a little bit more generally, and while things happen in the background, we can see how we get on. What we want to talk to you today about is about recruitment and retention. I think there is a general consensus that getting more people who identify as neurodivergent into the workforce is a fantastic thing, to lean on some of their skills and abilities, which are often fantastically focused in towards these skills and requirements needed by companies at the moment, and often with sort of a small amount of opportunity, we can provide more opportunity than has maybe been provided previously. However, it's all very well and good getting people into the workforce, but actually when they're there, is keeping them and making them feel psychologically safe and prepared to be able to manage that. So we want to sort of explore a little bit more about that today. Where I thought we would start is just putting a little bit of a base down in terms of language. So when we talk about three things. We talk about neurodiversity, which is we reference with biodiversity. So it's everyone. Neurodiversity is every single person, all cognitive variations, and within that, the two sort of key areas are on people who are neurodivergent. So that is people who display some sort of cognitive variation, and these include things like ADHD, autism and dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, etc. Interestingly, ADHD is the most prevalent of these, which is coming in roughly 10%. And then the second group is neurotypical, so those who display typical cognitive thinking, and applies to the majority of people. And the numbers that we use, and I'm very open to have my mind changed on this, is approximately 20% neurodivergent and approximately 80% neurotypical. But depending on which papers you read, that can flip in between. That could flip in between those things. Tammy, can you hear?
Sam, I can.
You're there.
I can't hear you. I'm using captions, so we're having a different experience on my end. But if you can hear me, I saw kind words come across about me, so I'd like to repay, of course. I'm so happy. This is a global conference, and so happy to be here with Sam together, speaking with you all today. So appreciate the invite. I have no idea. I've tried everything, so I apologize. But I spent a lot of my career in the US. I moved back to Canada a few years ago to expand our team there. And so really enjoying that. And of course, working with a global team on a global concept and issue for sure. So we are really, I know Sam's, defining what EY defines as our umbrella of neurodiversity. And it's broad, of course. I can say in Canada, we really lead with, we're multi-layered, right? Not single layered or identified folks. Neurodiversity is just one of those many layers. Our teams are very diverse in many aspects. And also we know that things don't occur in isolation. So on our team, we have individuals who have multiple layers of neurodivergence, may have physical and sensory and other disabilities concomitantly as well. And so our concepts really are that the working world was designed for the masses. And as soon as we can get everybody on board to some of the best practice techniques that we've developed for our teams, I think we've accomplished what we've set out to do. So. Sam, I know, Sam's passionate about bringing this to market in the UK, so I'll let you take that piece, perhaps.
So the sort of next bit is to explain a little bit more about what we see the NCoE is and the journey that we have been on in order to create it. So we are almost coming up to our 8-year
right. I'm pleased
anniversary.
to say that we now have slides. My computer has recovered. We've got 24 hours of this, so wish us luck.
Slide 4, please, Henry, would be ideal. And
okay,
then we can,
hopefully it did. Well, that's a tiny bit frustrating, but. You keep talking, and
we'll keep chatting away. No worries. So approximately 8 years ago, a number of big businesses, including EY, got together in the US and created a program called Autism at Work, which was very successful and a fantastic opportunity to bring a more an underrepresented group of people into a working environment. And not to comment on what other organizations have done, but what EY noticed very quickly was that neurodiversity as a whole, as sort of referenced by Judy Singer, was significantly wider than just autism. So the Neuro-Diverse Centre of Excellence, or Neurodiversity Centre of Excellence, was born and existed to bring in people who either traditionally would not have made it through the EY recruitment process as it stood, or who wouldn't even thought of applying in the first place. It started in Philadelphia and quickly has grown out from there. We have now 17 instances around the globe in 7 different countries. Excellent, thank you. And we all tie into a sort of a global network where we coordinate on a variety of different things, but equally have our sort of own individual country quirks and ways of working that mean we are a really truly diverse network and we can learn from each other. So at last count, we have approximately 300 full-time employees with a 92% retention rate, which we are unbelievably proud of. And we look at across about 200 different technical skills, and actually in Canada they've even gone beyond that into things like project management and tax, etc. We work with a variety of different clients, both helping them make their teams more neurodiverse, but also by providing them with the infrastructure and support to go on their own journey, and we can sort of help them along the way with that. I'm just going to pause there to let Tammy catch up and see if she has anything to add.
No, I think you've covered it, Sam, wonderfully. I would say that on bringing this to market, what we found is that our EY clients, and in Canada, our team sits in consulting. We're consulting with our clients all the time. It's quite common for even large organizations who have very robust DEI agendas that they've overlooked, disability strategy, or overlooked neurodiversity completely. And so they have, of course, been asking for help in how they can expand or launch their own initiatives in this space. So that has, of course, our ultimate goal is for more neurodiverse professionals to find, fulfilling careers. And so we're excited about some of that demand and interest in, again, an untapped talent pool. I think I echo your thoughts on our retention rate, particularly in a heavy tech sector. Retention is of course sometimes a very elusive goal, so we're really most proud of that.
And I just to paint a little bit of a picture of that, we're hearing in some reports, saying anywhere between 40 and 70% turnover in technology teams. So yeah, that just puts in really sharp perspective the retention rates that we feel. A lot of the questions we get asked is around what's different. What is the NCoE? How does it operate? So Henry, if we could just move on to the next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about the kind of the behind the scenes support. I'm going to let Tammy lead on this one, and I'll just jump in as required.
Sure. I was just talking to one of our new team members in Calgary yesterday, and she said she was in the office and all of the other coworkers were envious about that she had opportunities to meet her team members before she started on the job and knew so much about EY before joining. So I think it starts for us from all the way beginning of recruiting. We have a strengths-based, very intentional effort to include all types of professionals in the firm, and how we communicate throughout in that long-term support. So that includes, of course, really, and we'll see in a moment, right, how we sort of circle support around our employees. So there's not just one person, but really a supportive ecosystem around our staff. We obviously have dedicated training certified folks and management staff. We have job coaches, and those include within the firm. So one of the things that EY noticed early on in our NCoE journey was that we wanted to really own this and bring supports into the firm. And so we brought in career coaches, what were previously external job coaches into the firm. So the supports are there. We are very intentional about communication, sometimes for individuals, judging when to reach out, when to ask for help, what the cadence of that should be. And so we really are intentional about setting up a cadence and opportunities for feedback and clarification and coaching as well. We're really proud, and as I mentioned, our goal is for everybody to use best practice communication and inclusion strategies across the firm. So everybody at EY has what we call an EY buddy, or a peer or lateral mentor. So that's somebody at similar rank or just one rank above, who remembers what it's like to be new to a large firm, remembers all of those firsts of the first year, and is there as a mentor. And again, I point out to companies large and small and nonprofits, and that it's free. Those don't cost anything. In fact, the evidence in the literature and what we know from our firm is that the mentors, our buddies, actually report that experience increases their morale and brings meaning to their work. And of course, it's EY, we do a lot of technical work, and so having those opportunities to mentor is really meaningful. Seeing the working world through the eyes of somebody with a different perspective. So we do, of course, there's education, and I think in that middle column you'll see our focus is that there are others. We're not just supporting neurodivergent professionals, but we're also making sure that everybody is aware and informed, and knows how to be an ally as well in the surrounding. And I think, and I know Sam, you agree with me here on promoting self-advocacy. So you mentioned it takes time to sort of develop, right, psychological safety within the firm and beyond. That's a wonderful thing to see. We do have folks who join us who are very private at the outset, and over that growing, feeling and sense of psychological safety within the firm, become stronger self-advocates, and even beyond just themselves, but advocating and speaking to others. So I'll pause, Sam, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, for me, I think that's probably one of the greatest things that I have seen as a byproduct of the setup that we have, is that people feel so much more confident about raising issues that they themselves have had, or that they think are important. And I think there's the outlet that.
Now, just talking of raising issues, I'm just going to put in a quick plug. I've been trying to work out. Then you say something so interesting and important, and I'm like, oh, I should go away again. But we have a Q&A platform, so people who have questions about to put to everyone. So I'm advocating for the questions. That's then go to globaladhd.com and you'll find a link for Q&A, and go and put your questions in. This is an incredibly important thing. So this is about hiring and keeping people with neurodiversity. So specifically hiring people with neurodiversity. And I think one of the phrases you used previously, and I'm trying to help because I know we're probably a little discombobulated from the fact the slides didn't work. Imagine it was my end, my actual production software just frozen. I couldn't change any scenes, couldn't change anything. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? I think you said to it previously that you thought that this was an untapped area of quality, and that by tapping into it helps everyone, and so it is incredibly important. Right, so go to the questions. If you've got questions, put them in the Q&A. Also, whilst you're there, donate. This is a charity venture. These guys are very kindly giving their time and knowledge and expertise for free in supporting this endeavour, which is very, very kind to them. Right, I've interjected enough. Back to you and slides.
Thank you, Henry. I think the just to finish on the self-advocacy point, the being able to ask when you feel like you need to, and having the space to have that voice is so crucial. And I think the psychological safety that comes with gaining that voice is something that, if we can replicate for everyone, I think it's whilst it's absolutely necessary for some, it would be extremely helpful to everyone if everyone, regardless of whether they're neurodivergent and neurotypical, felt like that. But especially where we can help support this group.
can't stop myself, like, because we talked about this when we did some of our pre-meeting, which is this wonderful phrase that we like and you like we come at it from the same thing, which is we have this phrase, essential for some, good for everyone. The idea that a lot of what we do is just really fantastic for the wider population, and the learnings you get here are useful for everyone. And it's a really, really, really important attitude, because instead of, like, often disability conversations, frankly, can become very divisive, that it's as if it's been taking from a single pool and it's less for everyone, and this is not what this is about. This is about more for everyone, by using the learnings and information to help everyone. And and you obviously just touched on that. I couldn't stop myself. Also, I've got ADHD, and I'm totally going to blame the impulsivity. But anyway, back to you and slides.
And I think with the nice thing is, every time we open up a new one of these, we look back at what we've done over the previous iterations and think, what did we learn? What can we grow? What can we adjust? And Tammy, who's been here longer than me, said the other day, the first time we opened one of these is very different to the most recent time, and that's because it's gone through that iteration, it's gone through that learning process, and being part of a global network that shares significantly is a really massive bonus. Anyway, I'm going to pass back to Tammy, because I know she's much better on the technical knowledge support side.
No, thanks, Sam. I think that one of the things that's often misunderstood is the work adjustments and accommodations piece. So EY has a very public commitment to digital accessibility. And what we know in this space is that I would say many years ago, right, it took moving mountains to get accommodations and around assistive technology. Now many are just built into the platforms that we're already using. So a lot of that is just about awareness and making sure that those who are hosting meetings and supporting and working with folks on teams and on projects are using the tools available, and then everybody's aware. I think that is the other piece, is that when you are somebody who requires some work adjustments or accommodations, that the process be smooth. And so EY has really worked on, we use the term inclusive design at the firm. So, universal design, it benefits everyone. Inclusive design that we've intentionally set up. So we want, just if you need a software, voice to text, whatever you need, it's just a couple of clicks away without layers of approval. And so you can, whether you are blind, deaf, or facing learning differences or disabilities, that those are really just at the touch of your fingers, and not that it goes through layers and complex approvals to navigate, and that you don't have to repeat your very private story many times. I think that's important as well. So really, it's part of what actually drew me to the firm as well, was that commitment to accessibility.
100% agreed. And actually, sometimes I think a really good point to note is, it's not necessarily about people understanding what they need. It's about people knowing what the options are. And if you can create a menu, if you can proactively get after it, that can also be incredibly helpful. I think, Henry, if possible, we're going to move on now to our next slide about networks. Thank you.
Definitely possible.
And I think Tammy will start with this, and I'll add in a few bits as and when.
Sure. I think I referenced support circles. And so I mentioned the peer buddy. We have, of course, our counselor, which is as our managers, within our work, technical mentors, and then ad hoc support. So there are many supports in the workplace at EY. We're very blessed. I've listed out some of those things that the whole firm is wrapped around. In our DEI team, we have 7 professional networks, or ERGs or BRGs, however you reference. Obviously, many technical training opportunities, and really strengths-based competency alignment with the work that we're doing. I think we've touched on a lot of these. We do, we've added ad hoc supports, and those are internal to the firm, sort of as needed on some coaching. But also, I think, Sam, you can probably comment on the system in the UK and the supports that you use as well.
100%, and I guess one of the kind of community things that I really want to draw attention to is the neurodiversity community that we have in the UK. Albeit we do seem to have a lot of members from a lot of different countries that are in there as well. Even in the short time I've been here, which is sort of eight months now or so, the growth that it's been through, both in terms of the numbers of people who are involved, I think it's about 850 currently, and the specialisms that it is then drilled down into. You know, when I first started, it was very much just a general neurodiversity forum, and now if I'm just looking at the list now, we have a general space, we have an ADHD space, an autism space, a dyslexia space, dyspraxia space, a sharing space, a parenting space, a professional qualification space, etc., etc., etc. So much so that, you know, we're creating volunteer programs to help people. There's educational programs to help people learn more. You know, they're certainly one of the more active communities that we've got, and I think it gives it's a really demonstrable way of the people who are in it to showing how passionate they are about this particular topic and doing something about it. You know, but there's a lot of talk in these circles about doing the right thing, but it's incredibly it makes you think that you're working for an organization with purpose, in the fact that people are happy to walk the walk as well. And the two people that run that, who are called Grace Bolton and Madeline Bachari, they do a really fantastic job of keeping everyone engaged, keeping the conversation going, making sure they're making the right connections with people, being an ear to listen, and it's a really positive and engaging space to be in, and we're very lucky to have it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's interesting stat. There used to be in the literature, used to say 65% of neurodivergent professionals had never and planned to never disclose to their employers their neurodiversity, right? Obviously, we're talking about non-visible differences. And I would wonder if EY and particularly the community created is going to challenge that stat. So it is something we know at the firm. In Canada, we have, you know, hundreds also in a community outside of our NCoE team, but also that you know, it's an individual choice. The other factors into this, of course, are that we know that there are many who it's sometimes challenging within our health systems and accessibility to diagnostics and assessments, or even just awareness. So that continues to grow. I know Henry certainly has shared some stats from his group and how those numbers are growing as well, pretty significantly. So I think, and I can say, you know, I have an older brother and I have ADHD diagnosed after our children were diagnosed, right? And I think that's a fairly common tale as well. So Henry, I know you have great numbers if you wanted to pipe in.
Well, no, so we have one of our metrics is we have an adult ADHD screener on our site. When we first put it up, it's the WHO and Harvard University one. It's very, very well respected. We first put it on, we had about 200 people do it. The second month, we had about 500 people do it. Last month, we had 36,000 people do it. And so it's just, and that's people understanding what ADHD is and then wanting to learn more, trying to find out for themselves. And it's, I think it's a big sea change. It's a change of people, being able to get the help, support, and be able to structure their life for success, and navigate and access things like this wonderful initiative that you've got. For people joining us as who may have missed the start, E&Y have an extraordinary program of neurodiversity inclusion where they run specifically recruit people with neurodiversities into roles, seeing them as an untapped talent, and part of their consulting is to get more organisations to do it, and it's really an interesting. Don't forget, people, to put your questions in, and whilst you're there, maybe donate, which is at globaladhd.com, and you go to quick Q&As. Some people have added some questions, so we will get to those. But I'm robbing you of these people talking and slides. But I was invited in this time, so I couldn't not. So back to the important information. And,
thank you, Henry. If we could go to the next slide, that would be fantastic. I'll just start up with this one, if I may, Tammy. This is a really interesting one for me because there is a lot of talk around privilege and an understanding of sort of different intersectional lenses of looking at things. And as a white man, a straight white man, this is something for me which is sometimes difficult to understand. But I think the crucial thing that anyone can do, regardless of your background and what your situation is be a good ally. Someone once said to me that you can't call yourself an ally, you have to have someone else call you it. And so the only way that that's going to happen is if you can demonstrate that.
Just saying, like rules, like here, like if you want to be if you're here and listening and learning, you're an ally. Like, and we are definitely not gatekeeping your friend. Like I know it's come from a good place, but like we're not gatekeeping ally. Like if people want to wave that flag, we are with them. And because even just talking about ADHD like is a big deal. Like even knowing what it is. Like most of the time when I talk about it, and I'm wearing a badge. Like people are like, what is that? Like, and then you have to explain, and that means that and have to advocate for yourself, and that means like there's no way in hell like you're getting any adjustments or change in viewpoint. Like, if you say I'm really struggling with that, you'll get the same old, well, everyone struggles with that. Like, you're like, well, your challenge of procrastination, timeliness, and focus is not my challenge. We're in different places here, buddy. But like the fact that you have some familiarity doesn't. So, yeah, people. But I like where you're coming from. I know it's coming from. Like, anyway, I'll get back in my box. Goodbye.
But I think this idea about your actions is a strong one. Just a lot of it comes from a very sensible place, but being kind, listening, being normal, having conversation, listening. And I think that forms the basis of this slide. Tammy, I don't know if you want to jump in with anything.
No, I agree with everything. I think that oftentimes, because of bias, right, we have had folks who've shared some of their self-identification later after knowing folks for a while, right? A little bit of a, by the way, this amazing person who's been helping you, right, has ADHD, has autism, et cetera. And so we have seen as part of that, even within the network, people that are supportive or working directly with our NCoE staff have come to their own diagnoses and awareness in the process. If I had $1 for all of those calls, I've been working with your team, and I think I may want to be assessed myself from all ranks across the firm. So wonderful awareness and really being open to sharing, open to discussions. We're very much, I think, believers in calling in conversations, not calling out people. Obviously, there are times, I think in our next phase of neurodiversity and inclusion in the workplaces, are we using our best practices during the busy times, during stressful times, right? Because for many individuals, the rules can change, and navigating those rules, if it's okay to ask questions and then it's not okay to ask questions, et cetera, those can be struggles in the workplace. And so really making sure that people understand as allies how important that is as well.
And I think most people don't get upset about if you have questions, as long as they're asked in just a super respectful way. People, back to the self-advocacy thing, a lot of people want to tell you about what the situation is. Most people love talking about themselves in some way, shape, or form. So being interested and genuinely interested and engaging, I think is often one of the best ways to do it. And what I would say to sort of finish on from me, the level at which you're coming at this does not matter. If you're coming at it from a junior level or a senior level, it's all fantastic. So don't ever feel like you can't do it. It's open to everyone to stick their hand up and help. As Henry just mentioned, we want everyone to be an ally.
Not everyone has the power to go click and be in the like as I do right now, which I'm exploiting ruthlessly. It is actually a really wonderful slide. and on how to be an ally. I'm just going to read it very quickly for people, not all the text, just the headers. But tell you what, give your design team an A star. Like, this is a beautiful slide. The central part is nothing about us without us. Like, and I think a lot of people with ADHD and neurodiversity will underline that it's because like we're often not well understood, and and the other main was normalizing neurodiversity. We don't have special needs. We're humans with, with differences, but it affects every aspect of our lives. And I thought this was quite powerful. Don't expect us to remove the label when it's inconvenient. And like that, you can really see, like as someone with obviously with ADHD, like if we're starting to get towards a deadline or starting to like there are challenges, people are like, I'm sorry, like you just need to get over yourself right now. Like, okay, the only problem is I am still going to screw this aspect up unless I get help. And I'm like, I'm just under this deadline pressure thing, like all the time thing, probably just going to do it quicker. So like, if we could just have some understanding, it'd be very, very helpful. I thought listen, don't judge was particularly nice. Engage respectively, which you just talked about, and be curious. And I would say I think that point on engaging in a good way, in a positive way, like, I do like that. It's as soon as the sort of like, well, as ADHD, obviously we get a lot of like, oh, but everyone's like that. Like to the point of like significant debilitation of your life. maybe not. But I also think that's the flip side. So we talk about neurodiversity. So we talk about familiarity of ADHD traits breeding contempt of them. So people are familiar with procrastination, timeliness, a lack of focus, and they can end up thinking that their challenge plus a little bit is our challenge. And it's obviously not. Like we're in a very different place. But the flip side of that is, and which you guys talk to, is that the solutions that work for us, they like oftentimes really super work for everyone else. And so like the stuff you put in place to help an ADHD, like everyone else goes, yeah. And that's our line that we share, variations of essential for some, good for everyone. This idea that these things actually help everyone is I think really, really powerful. Right, we've got questions. You ready for questions? Or do you have a wrap up? I obviously have the privilege of knowing that we're out of slides at this point. I love, by the way, very efficient, 7 slides. The gentleman before who sent it in half an hour before, I think he had like 35, many of which were just big pictures that he liked. Very different expressions. And right, I'm going to take these in order. Do consider boosting people, donate, boost. And do consider donating. Right, it's quite long, but I'm going to go for it. Having been diagnosed with ADHD, I'm 42. The summary is I'm 42, have ADHD, and don't know where to take my career. Yikes. And I'm happy with my career so far. There's a nagging doubt whether I could have done better, and it's been upvoted a number of times. Had I known and acted on it in the past? I mean, dude, like the late diagnosis and thinking of the life that could have been, like, you are not alone. Like, and just to be quite clear, right? There's this really big difference. It's a really important difference between going, if I did this again, I could do it very differently, and I'm happy with who I am. Because a lot of people, when you ask them, like, if you did life again, would you do it differently? They answer a different question. They answer the question of, are you happy with who you are, who you've become due to the experiences you've had? And so they go, no, I would do it the same. And I'm always like, are you an idiot? Have you learned nothing? And I'm like, have you learned nothing in your life? Because I could do this much, much quicker now. And I'm like, so there is that nagging doubt. That is a thing. And so my question is more to do with next steps. Sorry, mate, I got distracted. My next career move would be all about going into senior roles, which require organizational skills, consistency, projecting experience without the social dysphoria, and focus on delivery, all of which are not my superpowers. My superpowers are connecting the dot.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, what is our advice?
Yeah, well,
to be helpful in that situation.
I think so. And it's made me think of something that I'm now properly putting you on the consulting spot. You ready? Bringing some MBA into play. I was very interested as a part of my MBA where Microsoft had realized that their most senior engineers, in order to achieve, were being forced into management, where they a number obviously excelled, very, very good, and a number hated it and were terrible. And so they were forced out of being brilliant into being terrible so that they could achieve more. And Microsoft, this is my MBA was 15 years ago, so there's a teeny potential that I am behind the times. But what we were told was that they'd recognised this and started to say, like, you can have a sort of really high value engineering track, and you don't have to go into management. And that's how they'd squared this particular circle. So I think this guy is saying, like, he's a good engineer, but to go into senior roles, he has to go into management, which requires organizational skills, consistency, projecting experience without social dysphoria, and focus on delivery, all of which are not his superpowers. His superpowers are connecting the dots, finding the solution, I assume. Over to you. One of you.
Oh, I can try, and you can shake your head at me terribly if I read wrong and misinterpreted the situation. So I will say we have the benefits, right? We know within EY that we have professionals across all ranks. But also because we're consulting with some of our clients to help them with their own efforts in analyzing data. And we do see that, of course, that people manager, right? Sometimes there's a plateau for people rising in the ranks. So what I know we've done, we have technical roles. So I will say I have 55 people on our team. Probably they're split. About half are interested in the traditional linear management track, and the other half are not. They want something different. They want to be the subject matter expert or the technical expert, right? And not be responsible for other people or set up to not be successful. And our program is all about setting people up for success in their career, particularly those that are seeking a really welcoming community or maybe have even had employment challenges in the past. So, but we do see, I think in our case, it's on, technical lead, technical director. There's some other paths to advancement, but I think as companies, really it's creating those alternate paths. There's some discussion about, the hardest spot is from manager up to the point where you can have an executive assistant, because an executive assistant bridges a lot of, sometimes in ADHD world, some of those gaps. And but you have to get there, which means you have to be successful in all the other ranks to get there to having. So we try to leverage the strengths within, and that means I'll give you a funny example, but at EY, we're very remembering to submit your timesheet is important. That's how, of course, we bill our clients. So we have many on our team who, have some time blindness for those deadlines and forget. And so, the answer was, well, then create a bot. So they have a bot that does their timesheets for them, that submits them on time. So we're really trying to take the strengths and innovate through that. So I think, yes, those are challenges for sure in advancement, but it's looking for opportunities with outside of that linear track, and hopefully others, right, are doing the same.
And I will just add into that just briefly. What do you enjoy? Like, because there's a difference between your strengths and what is fun or what you like doing at work. And, maybe you like doing the management side and that is something you want to do. So maybe the gap that you need to bridge is not in your skill set, but just in how you manifest that skill set, how you explain that skill set to people, because every single person who works has got strengths and challenges. So maybe it's just finding someone that you work with really closely who can be the mirror to you, and that allows you to concentrate on the things that you are good at while still still following the career route that you would like to.
Thank you. I'm going to jump a question, but we'll come back to the other one, just because you've touched on it just now. When you're ADHD and twice exceptional, person references twice exceptional, and I don't know if that means, I'm not quite sure what that means. You might be able to tell me, because I don't. And twice exceptional, it means that you get in on the ground floor but you failed to progress. How do we address this? And you just talked about the need, for an executive assistant. Something I would say for people in the UK, there is the Access to Work program. Go to the ADHD UK website for Access to Work, and Access to Work will provide you with some executive support. They will pay for that. You have to work with your organisation to incorporate it, but there is funds available, so do consider that. But on the wider note, and for EY, like, how do you help people jump that gap that you just talked about?
For me personally, I think it's about, again, finding, channeling your strengths where they need to be channeled to. If you're constantly fighting against the things that you feel you are either not good at or you find more challenging, then it's always going to be more stressful. It's always going to be more tiring. So if you can work with the organization to forge out a career path that works for you, then fantastic. And if you can't, maybe it's not the right place for you to be working, or maybe it's not the right boss for you.
I do think.
Yeah, I would add. I think for us, it's about transparency. We're building consulting teams all the time. When we do that, when you build any project team, you're pulling together folks with different backgrounds and subject matter expertise. We just layer in neurodiversity into that. So there may be individuals from our team who are very strong presenters and others who are much stronger in back office data work. And so it's really, how can we complement one another? I think and when we do that, it sets our staff up for success on those particular projects. And I think the same is applied to broader career trajectory as well, in that we are very transparent about performance expectations, performance appraisals. People should know that from the day they're hired, how they're being evaluated, by what metrics and what those are, so that they can have transparent conversations about their strengths and how they can augment where they may have faced some barriers.
I do think that's a very important point, that the importance of transparency, so people know what they're looking to achieve. Right, I jumped a question, so I must go back to it because I promised to. And then we've got a last question. So a wider question, I think. So how can we make things better for people working in environments who are ignorant about the needs of neurodivergent staff? So very different from what you've created. I'm still healing from my treatment on a creative project in which I disclosed to a collaborator that I had ADHD. That information was then used against me, and I've been ousted from the project. It's put me off disclosing. What would be your advice to that person?
It's honestly, it must be so frustrating. I'm completely with you. How, what a terrible experience that must have been, and I think sadly, it's a really personal decision. You have to feel safe that you can disclose, and unfortunately, there are still some people out there who are not very nice or helpful, and that's not a fantastic thing. I think you just got to try and surround yourself with people who are the best people possible, and you make a constant decision and judgment about that on an almost consistent basis. But for me personally, and Tammy might have a different view on this, I don't think there's a right answer to that question. I think you've just got to make a judgment call every time, and in this case, it has blown up in your face, and I'm really sorry that you had to go through that.
Yeah, I would add, Sam, I think that there's sharing and oversharing. So oftentimes when we're looking through a neurodiversity lens, there's no such thing, right, as ADHD behaviors, autistic behaviors, whatever they may be. They're just human behaviors, and some people may do them more or less. And our ADHD professionals do some amazing human behaviors more. They're more creative, make great business decisions a little more easily than other people. We see, so many strengths in persuasive arguments in many areas. So I think that when we're sharing, if particularly if the audience is not understanding or aware, that it also just may be in taking on those roles to share maybe not a diagnosis necessarily, may not be relevant, but these are my strengths. This is where I may need some support, or the roles that I may not, sort of take on and absorb in a project. So that is, I think, the general advice, of course, for people who want to support is to, resist judgment. Just ask questions. Just ask the question: is there a reason why, you didn't respond, didn't follow through? Just to be general and open to asking questions in a non-judgmental way.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we've got one last question, and we must go. I'm ruthlessly never ending on time or starting on time. I feel like as an ADHD conference, it'll be wrong. It'll be wrong. So if you've tuned in at 4 p.m. for the next thing, and it's not happening yet, it will shortly, but we are not on time. But we are only a couple of minutes off, which is, honestly, it's success. The last question is lovely, and I saved it. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And seriously, thank you. I think what you're doing is very, very important. And in terms of that person talking about sharing, the reason they can't share is because of the lack of awareness, understanding, and you are part of driving that down, like that lack of awareness, helping people know, and then you don't have a stigma if you've got a group already working within an organisation. Where if you're talking about neurodiversity, that is the first step of this. Then people know that there is a good neurodiversity conversation, if there is a conversation. If there is no conversation, they don't know, right? They expose blindly. They don't know what's going to happen. Whereas when they're talking about it, they do. And so you're absolute pioneers, and it's thrilling. And talking of which, our last question. Well, he's put the full name here, so I'm going for it because it's size public. Neuro-Diverse in South Africa. Thank you, everyone, for your time and hosting this event. Does EY South Africa offer ND jobs? Regards, Zaid Keys, IT Systems and Security Engineer. Zaid is 100%. I like Zaid already. He's in and enthusiastic. Where are you at with South Africa?
Currently, we are not there. So that's the first thing to say, sadly. But there's no reason why we can't be in the future. And these are the types of conversations where we can run that up with the global team and make a suggestion. What I would say is, and this is absolutely not a guarantee, but please feel free to connect with me afterwards, Zaid, because we are working with a client who has suggested that they are open-minded about hiring in South Africa. So maybe whilst there might not be a chance to work with EY, there may be a chance to work with one of our clients down there. So happy to keep you in the loop as much as I can around that.
How best should Zaid, that is very kind of you, how best should Zaid get in touch? And noting that other people may, okay, LinkedIn.
Yeah, connect with me. Very happy to connect with pretty much anyone. So as long as you look like a real person. Okay,
the global conference, 55 countries, go for it. Near 3,000 registrants. Okay, everyone now become his LinkedIn friend. And yours. We don't want to leave you out. Friends with you both. And me. Go for it. I won't. No one cares. Not interested in me. I can provide no IT jobs. No technical. You guys are awesome. I think what you're doing is very, very special. Would you remind, when did it start? Because it's not so long ago. The Neurodiversity program.
2016.
2016. And you now have how many?
17 in 7 countries.
In 7. And it did initially start as predominantly autism, and then very quickly became much, much more than that. And I think you talked, Tammy, about the different. You talk about ADHD specifically in other different groups. It's clearly just a wonderful journey, very fast, and a very, very big deal. And the fact that EY are pushing it and expanding it is wonderful. It's a big deal. That's it. I think we go to our next. Running a few minutes late, and we all know we could have ended on time. It was within grasp. It was very simple, but we didn't. Thank you very much. I think it's where we say adieu. I always think it's rather sad. You're like involved in this. For us, very exciting to have you. And then having been on the other side of these, you kind of turn off your Zoom and you're like, oh, I guess that's all. So I go home and don't do what I'm doing. But you've been awesome. It's a big deal and very, very important. Thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you so much, Sam. It's wonderful. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being part of this. They've given their time for free and sharing their knowledge for free, which they're consultants, right? That they don't do that. Like it's a fundamental of the role.
Rule number one.
Rule number one. Charge. This is billable time. No, it's not. Just absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much. Goodbye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Great to join you.
Over to us, back to me, all my loads of. Thank you so much. That was an absolutely wonderful segment and something very, very, very special.